If you want to paint your walls pink and purple and do gold toilets, go ahead, enjoy it, love it. Just know when you go to sell your house, you're going to have to replace your toilets and you're going to have to replace your wall because you're going to leave money on the table if you don't.
My guest today is Tarek El Moussa. You've probably seen him on HGTV on Flip or Flop, Flipping 101, or Flipping El Moussas. But Tarek is also a well-seasoned real estate investor who's bought, fixed, and sold over 1,000 homes. And he spent years helping homeowners determine what adds value and what doesn't, which makes him exactly the person I wanted to talk to about ROI. Welcome to Own It. I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angi. And the honest conversations that every homeowner wants to have start right here. In today's episode, we talk about what works in home improvement, from choosing the right projects and people to avoiding the mistakes that can cost you time, money, and maybe even a deal. Here's my conversation with Tarek El Moussa. You got into real estate at a super young age. What drew you there?
It was kind of out of the blue. I was 19 years old. I had just graduated high school and I was selling Cutco kitchen knives. I developed the sales book, so I had all my leads, all my contacts. I had my little knife selling business. And what happened was I lost my entire lead book. And there was no computer, there was no database. It was an actual book. And I literally put myself out of business. And I saw this crooked sign and it was flapping in the wind, actually. And it said, Wise Old Owl Real Estate School. I had what I call a defining moment, which is a moment in your life that changes the trajectory of your life, because I looked at the sign, I thought to myself, if I can sell knives, I can sell houses. And immediately I walked across the parking lot and signed up for real estate classes. And that is literally how I got into real estate. So then my first 6 months in the business, I got my license. I showed up at 9. I went to the coffee thing. I went to lunch and Taco Tuesday. And what happened was nothing. I learned that I can't make any money if I do what everybody else is doing. I went from living in a garage to almost buying $1 million house at 21 because I had ended up earning a couple $100,000 in gross commissions in a 90-day period.
I love what you're talking about here, Tarek. I mean, when I started Angie's List, I was similar age. I was 22 and I had to do sales and I had to go door to door and I treated it like a math equation. It was like, I have to knock on so many doors because so many doors will result in so many people saying yes. And it was just math. It's a math equation.
I'm going to tell you this. Okay, I'm such a big fan of you, but now I'm the biggest fan ever of you because most people don't know this about me. I built my entire career door knocking and cold calling. The first 10 years, I had no marketing. I did what you did. I hit the streets. That's how I started flipping houses. I used to get in my car and go knock on foreclosures. I mean, dogs would chase me. There'd be drive-bys, police chases. So to hear that you went door to door shows me exactly why we're here today.
True grit and character building is what I learned. So tell me, when you were, so you got going, things were going great, right? But then you hit the financial crisis of 2008. No one thought the housing market was going to collapse like it did. I remember sitting in a coffee shop watching it happen and thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean for Angie's List back then? Because, are people going to be renovating? If they can't keep their houses, they can't renovate their houses. And I think you too had a similar story.
Yeah. So man, the Great Recession. So I was doing what I always did. I was getting listings. I was putting them on for sale. And then I'd go get the next one. I'd put it on for sale. And then I realized, well, I'm putting them for sale, but none of them are selling. Wait a minute. Something's going on. I started doing research. I noticed that inventory had spiked 84% in the summer of 2006. So I really studied the market. And I determined for two different reasons. One, based on studying, and two, based on my income, there was a problem because I wasn't making money. My houses weren't selling. So I listed my main house and one investment. I closed escrow, both of them. One was December 2006. The second one was March 2007. And as you know, the subprime market crashed spring of 2007. So I barely made it out of there. And then that first house that I sold right before the crash, sold almost exactly a year later as a short sale for $700,000, which was $300,000 less
And I'm glad you did not lose your love for real estate, that you were able to pull yourself back from that. One of the things that's interesting to me is just how many houses you flip. What, over 1,000 houses, something like that. What is it when you walk into a house? And I'm not talking about just a house you're potentially going to flip, but you've been in so many houses. Like, what do you see buyer, a typical average homeowner who's buying it for themselves doesn't see? What are things that catch your eye?
The first thing I see is the potential. And really the potential comes from the layout and the bones. Because if it's very expensive to fix the layout and the bones, it's going to be expensive for the overall project. So one of the things I really like to find is an older dated house, but maybe it has good bones and a good floor plan. So I don't have to remove walls and do heavy construction and fix foundations and things like that.
Are there things when you look at a house that you're like, if I walked into this house and I was getting ready to buy it, what advice would you have for a homeowner of like, hey, this thing or these two things I would always steer away from? What are things that you're kind of like, you will be in over your head quicker than you can imagine?
Here's the truth. We have a really big problem in this country where since 2008, 2009, I mean, how many people have started flipping houses? Probably because that show called Flip and Flop on HGTV.
Right.
It's very, very important for homeowners or anyone looking to sell their house to make sure they're aligned with the right people, because at the end of the day, the right people are going to make or break your entire transaction, your remodel, your design. And the biggest mistake I used to make was looking at the cheapest person. And I learned very, very, very fast. You get what you pay for. In 2026, what's important for a homeowner is to do the things to their house before ever putting it for sale to reduce the risk of it falling out of escrow. Because right now, of homes falling out of escrow, 7 out of 10 houses are falling out because they're not passing the home inspection. And a lot of times it's not passing over dumb items that if they were fixed beforehand, they never would have been an issue. So with my company, Nestle Home, if people want to, I always suggest before we list it or before you list it, get a home inspection. That way, if there's a red flag, you can fix and remove the red flag.
Right. Puts you in a much better negotiating.
Yeah. And it puts you in a better position for negotiating. And when you really think about it, imagine a family or a person spending months trying to sell their house. Every weekend there's open houses. They got to leave. And after 6 months of doing this, they get an offer, they go into escrow, and bam, it falls out of escrow because of something this big. So it's all about risk prevention with real estate, and it's about doing the things you got to do before you ever list a house. And that's what I'm focused on.
It's interesting what we've seen in our State of Home Spending report with Angie is that homeowners are spending more on maintenance now than they have historically, which I think is super interesting, which means they're probably taking care of some of those little things. Because I tell people, and I'm sure you do as well, like when people come into your house looking to buy it, they're actually looking for reasons not to buy it.
I really believe the next couple of years, we're going to see, people doing way more remodeling of their existing houses. We're going to see a lot more additions. We're going to see a lot more add-ons, which tells me there's going to be a lot of people that are going to need our help.
Yeah, exactly. Because, they think about that like, hey, I'll take that second and blend that in with my mortgage. And all of a sudden my rate's not that bad versus totally flipping the mortgage to the higher rate. For those that are out buying right now, it just makes thinking a little more long-term because people aren't staying, they're staying in their houses longer, so location matters more. It's like, where are you going to be in 5 or 10 years? So think about that when you're thinking about that location, because you can change many things about the house. Can't change the location without moving.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Angie, do you mind if I ask you one question?
Yeah.
What drove you to start Angie?
So I started when I was fresh out of college. I had done an internship with the guy that then became my co-founder. Bill had renovated a house in Indianapolis. He'd bought like a 1920s house that needed tons of work. And it was the first house he'd ever bought. But it turned out there was a little business in Indianapolis called Unified Neighbors, and it kept track of who the good contractors were in town. And he used that and was like, this is great. Like, I love owning houses. And then he moved to Ohio and bought another diamond in the rough, and quickly discovered that there was no such thing as Unified Neighbors there or anywhere. So he convinced me to join him and start this business. Back then when we started, we were competing against the Yellow Pages. You just open them up and you're like, which company's the best?
Yeah.
And it's like, it was all about really being able to get to that real scoop, because in 1995 there was no internet, reviews weren't really a thing. It was really, word of mouth was how you a lot of times would then have to hear about people.
And it's incredible to think, the impact you've made all across the nation, because it's a very risky, difficult to understand industry. And it's an industry where if you're a homeowner and you don't do the right things, it's easy to be taken advantage of. And then the problem is, if you are taken advantage of, trying to get your money back or fight with the court systems, it's very, very close to impossible. So what I always tell people, that the most important thing you can do is spend the time on the front end. It's the most important part, because the front end is where you find your team. That's where you do your interviewing. That's when you check the credibility. Because if you make mistakes on the front end, your entire project is just going to be a roller coaster, and it gets very stressful.
Absolutely. So I couldn't agree with you more. And I tell people, it's like, because it's emotional purchase, right? Even, when you're remodeling or something like that, I might not be an expert roofer, but over the course of my home ownership, I might replace a couple of roofs, and I've got to trust that contractor. So making sure you get, a great contractor, you're exactly right. And, and especially if you're looking at a house that needs some work, having a contractor that you trust and you've built some rapport with to go in and look at it with you before you buy will also help you avoid some pitfalls, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest mistake is usually hiring the wrong people. And then once you do, you pay them in advance, and then they take your money.
That is true. And it's, it's important to, make sure, I think you brought it up, like make sure you're getting several estimates, checking their credentials, and then also just getting to know the contractor. I mean, you've been involved in lots of big projects, and, it's not something that you do overnight. It's something you might, I joke around, like you might be living with your remodeler for, a couple of months while they're doing a major project. And, it's like you've got to have a good rapport with them in order for that project to go well. Let's talk about ROI, because I think that is something that homeowners spend a lot of time talking about it. You've seen it from the investor perspective of kind of how important it is to choose the right projects to do in a house and which ones you might want to avoid. Homeowners who are living in their house, they may not have that same business sense when it comes to their own home as you have on the projects that you're doing. But, what types of projects oftentimes tend to kind of result in the best ROI?
So actually, after buying, fixing, and selling 1,000 houses, I've kind of identified what I feel are the most important things. So within my company, Nestle, I created something called Nestle Touch. Touch means anything we've touched on the house. And the thing is, I think every homeowner needs to do, and this is important because I'm not talking about a fixer-upper. I'm talking about the average American homeowner. Before selling their house, one, I feel like it's very important, declutter. Get someone in, take half of the stuff from every room, put it in a box, label the box, go into your closet, take half your clothes.
I'd say even take more than half. I'd take 3/4.
Exactly. Your closet, right? All your stuff. Take 75% of the stuff out. Make your closet feel bigger. Go to the front of your house and look at it with your eyes. You want green grass, you want flowers, you want painted trim, you want a new fresh colored front door. It's not about spending a fortune before selling your house. It's about spending a little bit of money on the right things that'll cause it to sell just for more money and that much faster. Like, and I was just talking about the outside, like I'm talking paint, kitchen, replacing hardware, even as simple as lights. I walk into these beautiful homes for sale and they're using these yellow light bulbs. So it's the details. You're telling a story. And in today's market where it's slow and it's difficult to sell houses, this is the most important time ever to do the right prepping and improving before you ever actually list your house. Imagine you're a buyer, you're walking into your house. What would you want to see? I mean, I would want to walk up to a clean porch, a freshly painted front door, a welcome sign, a cute mat. You're selling a story.
Right. If I bought my house during the pandemic, for example, I took advantage of that super low interest rate, and I'm trying to figure out what ways to make my house grow, because I don't want to move right now, which I think a lot of homeowners feel like that. What projects, what are your top couple of projects you would consider, like making sure that, kind of in updating a home? Which are the favorites that you think about first?
Yeah, that really depends on the goals. Is it looking for more size or is it looking for more design?
So if we think, like, why don't you give me one of each? If you're thinking size, where do you go? And if you're thinking design, where do you head?
Oh, okay. So, I mean, if I'm thinking, what is the best way for me to get the best look on this house with the lowest money spent? If I can just clear my mind really quick, empty out that house. First thing I'd go in there is scrape all the ceilings, replace baseboards, fresh paint everywhere, white light bulbs. I'd install can lights, modern lighting, modern light fixtures. I'd repaint or refinish cabinets. I'd put new hardware on. I would tile the kitchen backsplash because it's pretty fast and easy. Homeowners can do it. And it's just the little things, the hardware,
Right.
the lights, the chandeliers, the paint. And it makes just
Yeah.
such a big difference in modernizing a space.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, one of the things that I hear homeowners talk about is like, I want to remodel my kitchen. Does that mean I'm spending $50,000? And it's like, it's amazing the number of things you can do in phases, right? Or some of these smaller things that can give it a new look. I mean, I tell them if you can keep the cabinets because they'll be the most expensive thing. And do not change the footprint of the kitchen because you don't want to move plumbing and electrical.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I got to tell you a story. 2 years ago, this is a funny story. I'll be quick. It was on season 2 of my show, Flipping El Moussa. We bought this house in Hawthorne. It was like 1,000 square feet, tiny little thing. Last minute, me and Heather are in the kitchen for the design. We're like, you know what? We're going to move this one little window from here to here. We tell the contractor. Oh boy. Next thing we know, that little window, it ended up delaying us 3 months and costing $40,000 because we moved that little window. So they made us retrofit and do all this wild code upgrades. And if I would have ever known, I would
Right.
have left that window.
One thing I encourage homeowners to think about is making sure they're giving some cushion to their budget, right? Because you hear about these things that happen that go awry. Make sure you got a good 10%. Hold back. Tell your contractor you have 20,000, but hold back a few thousand just so that you're prepared because they can't see behind walls. They don't know the condition of absolutely everything. And when you start, moving some things around, you can run into those things that'll eat up all of your fund budget.
So glad you just said that. It's very important to pay on a payment schedule. When I first started flipping houses, the biggest lesson I've learned is choose the right people and pay them on a schedule.
Yeah, and get everything in writing.
Yes.
So one thing you talk about is every house needs a sizzle feature.
Yeah.
One thing that kind of really stands out and makes your house special. How do you decide what that is? I mean, does the house inherently have it? I mean, like I love curved archways, so maybe something like that is that sizzle feature. But would love to learn more.
I think every house inherently has it. And I think every house's sizzle feature should be the one that the homeowner wants. So for me, I analyze every house. I'll look at the inside. I'll look at the outside. I always like to create sizzle features in every house for a few different reasons. One, it gives the owner an opportunity to show off something cool. Maybe people don't have enough money to sizzle their entire house. But you can do one part, like maybe a bar, maybe a fire pit, but just something that's personal and you're proud of.
So talk to me about your framework. It's a 4-step framework, right? The evaluate, emulate, renovate, and duplicate. Walk me through what that's like for someone who just owns a house they live in. How should they be thinking about that framework?
So before you get started, you need to know what you're going to do. So what I like to do is if I look at a house, I'm like, okay, that's a 1970s house, a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It needs some love. The first thing I want to know is, well, like how nice should I make this house and what do other people make houses look like in this area? Because I don't want to do LA Hollywood modern house in the middle of Ohio, right?
Right.
So identify your competition. What are they doing? And then what are they doing that's working? Find out what that is, and then do what they did and try to do it better by emulating, which is what they've done, and enhancing it with a personal touch to improve it. That way, you're always doing things based on what's already been proven, and you're always trying to improve what's already been proven.
Right. I like that. I tell people that they want to keep up with the Joneses. They don't want to kind of exceed the Joneses. So I think you bring a good point. Like how often, like homeowners should be thinking about the market probably more. I mean, I've lived in my house for 20 years, so maybe you aren't paying attention to kind of the real estate market if you're not in the market. But, you bring up a great point about how that can actually help you educate you on what you should be doing in your house, even if you don't have a move in the horizon.
100%. The best way to learn about your house is to study your neighborhood. What are the neighbors doing? Are there similar floor plans? I mean, I've learned so much just by looking at photos. It's amazing. Like I've said, okay, I want to do a remodel of this beautiful house. I've literally pulled up, every house listed along the coast between 5 and 20 million just to get design inspiration. So you can pull inspiration from anywhere. You could take a look at a $20 million house and put it in a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
But instead of using hand, formed clay tile, well, you get a porcelain with, a print on it.
That has a similar feel to it and warms up the space the same way.
And here's one thing I've actually learned doing this so long is you can get a super high-end designer look by just choosing the right materials. Because it's amazing the type of patterns and stamping they can do on porcelain, and nobody ever knows the difference.
You've done so many of these projects. You can always say, like, you want to invest in quality, you want to make sure you're doing everything right. But, sometimes you just want to go after the trend, right? Like, hey, I just want a little pizzazz. So where would you say, like, hey, this is an okay spot to go kind of trendy, maybe less expensive, but I would never do it with this kind of a product?
We only got one shot at this thing called life. And I think it's very important to separate, business decisions and personal decisions. And I feel like a home is very personal. So
it's emotional. Yeah.
Here's what I tell people. If you want to paint your walls pink and purple and do gold toilets, go ahead, enjoy it, love it. Just know when you go to sell your house, you're going to have to replace your toilets and you're going to have to replace your walls because you're going to leave money on the table if you don't.
I think this is a great point. And like paint can be one of those inexpensive things, but you just have to remember to paint it before you list it because, that paint could, that off-white paint that you end up painting, it could be the least expensive thing you've ever put in your house, but turns out to be the best ROI you've ever spent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And people, for most, their home is their largest investment. So they want to be smart. They want to make good decisions. And they want to feel like, hey, when I do sell this, I am going to make some money on it. And it's going to turn out to be, a wealth builder for me.
I love what you just said because it is 100% the truth. I mean, I believe it's 90% of this country. The majority of their net worth is in their house.
Exactly. So as we wrap here, what is the one room in a house that tells you everything you need to know about the owner?
The entry. I'd say the entry. Like for example, you come to my house, you're gonna see a lot. You're gonna see a lot of organized shoes because my wife has a rule: there ain't no shoes in the house.
No shoes in the house. Fair.
Sometimes you go to a house and there's stuff everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
I think immediately you kind of know the second you walk in.
Right. You've got that first impression. It's back to the front door.
Yeah, it's back to the front door. And, and a lot of times it starts at the curb, based on the landscaping and as they're peeling paint on the door and stuff like that.
This has been so much fun, Tarek. I've really enjoyed this. Appreciate the conversation.
Well, this was so fun. I really am a big fan of what you've done. And I love the fact that you did this going door to door based off an idea. Who's someone who had a great experience off of a list. I mean, I just love these stories.
Here's what I'm taking away from my conversation with Tarek. Your house is personal. You should love it. It's where you live, so live in your home. But the day you decide to sell, it stops being yours and becomes a real asset. And the homeowners that come out ahead are the ones that understand the difference. They spend their money on the front end on upgrades that aren't dramatic, but deliver the best ROI. The basics, but done really well. And in today's market, where 7 out of 10 deals fall apart at the inspection phase, these homeowners do a pre-inspection and fix the items up front. It's the smartest money they'll spend all year. Thanks for watching. And if this episode sparked some interest, feel free to follow along or subscribe or leave a review. And if you know someone getting ready to sell their house, this might be a great episode to pass along. This is Angie Hicks with Own It, and we'll see you next time.